Welcome to the Finance Marketing Podcast, a show that empowers finance professionals to market their businesses in ways that feel good and actually achieve results. I'm your host, Hillary. I've been working with folks in financial services to develop marketing strategies that work and create results-oriented marketing content since 2020. And I've learned a lot about what works in finance marketing, what doesn't work, and where financial services pros get stuck. Join us each Friday as we explore real, effective ways to market your finance business and connect with folks who truly embody your ideal clients. Hey advisors and coaches, Hillary here today, back with a solo episode for you. I'm really excited today to talk about one of my favorite topics, marketing minus the overwhelm. And I do have a guide, an interactive guide that goes along with this topic really, really well. So if at the end of this episode, this is something that you are interested in implementing for yourself and your own business, you can find the link to the guide in the show notes. So I don't know if you can relate, but if you have ever looked around at other financial advisors or financial coaches marketing, and it seems like they are everywhere. They've got social media posts coming out every few days. They're publishing blog posts. They're sending email newsletters. Maybe they're even hosting a podcast or a YouTube channel. And you are sat there wondering how on earth they're doing it all. I know that I have certainly felt that way, and I just wonder how they have the time for it. And finally, I started to realize a couple of things. Number one, they probably didn't start doing everything at once. And that's really what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to walk you through what I call a complete marketing ecosystem. So all of these pieces, all of these platforms that are working together to help you attract and nurture potential clients. But more importantly, I'm going to show you how to build this ecosystem sustainably so that you don't burn out trying to do all the things at once. And number two, these creators or these business owners who are showing up on all the platforms and creating all different types of content, and it seems like they just have their marketing down pat. It's more than likely that they have members of their team, whether they're in-house members or they're outsourcing some work to agencies or freelancers. They're probably not doing it alone. So when it's just you and your business, in the early days of your business, you don't have the budget to bring on team members, or you don't have the desire to bring on team members or outsource anything. I just want to give you permission to take a breath. You do not have to do all the things at once to still have a successful marketing system in place. Now, with that said, I talk with advisor after advisor and coach after coach who thinks that in order for their marketing to be successful, they need to start with everything. So they think they need to be on LinkedIn every single day. They need a blog coming out every single week. They're sending out email newsletters to their email list. Oh, and by the way, they still have to build their email list. They don't have anyone on their email list yet. And they're thinking they have to get this all started next week at the same time if they want it to be successful. But what usually ends up happening is they get so overwhelmed by the sheer amount of content that they need to create every week, or they feel like they need to be creating every week, that after just a couple of weeks, they stop producing any content whatsoever, and it was all for naught. And look, I get it. I have been there. And most of the time, financial advisors and financial coaches are already working with a good handful of clients by the time they start wanting to market themselves more seriously. So it ends up being much easier to just kind of give up on it and just focus on serving the few clients that they have than to invest all their time and energy into marketing, which can be more than a full-time job in and of itself. But I promise you, it doesn't have to be this way. In this episode, I'm going to break down the key elements of what a complete marketing ecosystem might look like, how to figure out which elements make sense for your business so that you don't feel like you have to do all of the things, and most importantly, how to get started and prevent that overwhelm from the get-go. Now, as I mentioned at the very beginning of the episode, I also have a free guide called Marketing Minus the Overwhelm, and that is in the show notes. And that free guide will help you implement everything that we talk about today. So it'll kind of summarize the things that we talked about and also have a lot of space for you to do work inside the guide to think through what you're going to do with your own marketing. So let me start by sharing what I've seen work consistently with the advisors and the coaches who I work with and talk with on the podcast. Now, they all have something in common. They all started with just one type of marketing, one type of content creation, and they added in additional pieces one at a time over time. Now, more often than not, I see advisors starting on LinkedIn, and oftentimes I'll see coaches start on Instagram, some sort of social media platform, because it really makes the most sense. Social media is kind of the best place to get visibility online in the financial services space. It's a free place to build an audience, and the content that you can create on social media is relatively short and quick. So it's not a huge endeavor to sit down and say, okay, I'm going to create one post per week, or I'm going to create 3 posts per week. And I can commit to that and be pretty consistent without overwhelming myself from the get go. The other thing about these social media platforms is they give you a really great chance of making real connections with centers of influence and with possible clients that can result in client relationships. Now, there is one drawback to social media, and it is that you do not own that platform. You are kind of subject and at the mercy of the platforms and their algorithm changes. Most recently, we just saw TikTok disappear for a day or two because of ongoing legal and political battles. And so people who have been creating on TikTok, are really nervous right now that they're going to lose their audiences of hundreds, thousands, sometimes millions of followers, and lose all of the income that those audiences have been providing for them. So that is a drawback to social media. At the same time, social media does have a lot of benefits. So you really have to weigh, what makes most sense for you. And at some point, it is the place where you start building an audience, but then you'll have other pieces of your marketing ecosystem that you can move that audience into them so that you have some more control and safety over them. Now, back to those advisors and coaches who start on social media. This is key. They only add on the next piece of their marketing ecosystem once they're well in the habit of posting on that social media platform. So once they're well in the habit of being on LinkedIn, they've started to build a network, they've started to build some connections, they've started to build an audience. Then they're ready to add in that next piece. So this can take 1 month, this can take 6 months. For some people, this can take a year of just being on social media and getting comfortable there, and that is okay. Now, that next piece, maybe it's a podcast that you've been thinking about. Maybe it is a lead magnet that you've been thinking about creating so that you can start getting your social media followers into your email list and having a little bit more security and control over your audience. But again, the key is they're not trying to do it all at once. Now, I've seen this work in my own business too. When I first started creating content, I tried blogging. I'm a writer. I thought blogging would make a lot of sense for my business. But like so many other advisors I work with, I found it really overwhelming to commit to writing a full length, fleshed out, in depth, valuable blog every single week. And so I found myself posting really sporadically. Maybe it was once a month, and then it was once every few months. And then, you get the picture. So then I discovered podcasting. And for me, something just clicked with podcasting. Podcasting was clearly the right type of content creation, the right type of platform for me. For whatever reason, creating consistent podcast episodes felt much more natural to me than writing blog posts for my own business. And so once I had that foundational piece working well, and that took me just a few months or so, then I felt like I could build from there. Now that I have weekly podcast episodes coming out, it's easy for me, or easier, I should say, to commit to sending a weekly email newsletter. It's easier for me to create my social media content. So I have a lot of content from my podcast that I can then easily repurpose into these other pieces of my whole marketing ecosystem. And that's really what I want to help you do today, is to find that first piece that feels natural to you, whether it's podcasting or whether it's blogging or it's YouTube or whether it's social media or something else, and then build a system around that thing. Because here's what a lot of people don't talk about. The most successful marketers of their business aren't necessarily doing more than everyone else. They're just being more strategic about what they do. So let's talk about what actually goes into a complete marketing ecosystem, and then I will show you how to build yours one piece at a time. So what do I mean when I say marketing ecosystem? I like to think of this as building a house. You need different rooms in the house that serve different purposes, but they all work together to create a complete home. Now, in marketing, we have two main types of content that serve different purposes. We have awareness content, where you can really build your audience, and then you have relationship building content, where you can nurture that audience into becoming a client of yours. So, let me explain what each one does in a little bit more detail. Awareness content helps people discover you. This is typically your social media content, but not always. Particularly for advisors, this happens most often on LinkedIn, whereas financial coaches might be on Instagram or Twitter, or they might be on LinkedIn too. These are typically the top 3 places that financial services professionals market themselves. Now, social is where you share your quick insights. You can engage in conversations really easily in the comments and in DMs with people, and you start building those initial connections. But social is also where a lot of business owners, especially advisors and coaches, get stuck. They stop at that awareness stage. They post consistently on LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever they are, but they're not giving their audience anywhere else to go to really deepen that relationship. And that's where relationship building content comes in. Now, the reason that relationship building content is so important for financial advisors and coaches is because the relationship between advisor and client or coach and client is really vulnerable. As a client, you have to share all of your financial information with this person. It can be quite scary. They might be afraid that you're going to tell them what they can and can't do with their money. They might not want to be locked into that kind of relationship. They might not know what to expect from a relationship with you. And so the on ramp from someone becoming just aware of you and enjoying the education or entertainment that you provide to actually picking up the phone and calling you or booking a video meeting with you or even walking into your office, whatever it might be, that on ramp can be pretty long. So it's really important for you to have that on ramp for people to want to work with you. Now, are there people who are going to become aware of you on social media and immediately want to work with you? This can happen, but it's not very common. So you can take advantage of a much larger swath of your audience with relationship building content. So, relationship building content is oftentimes longer form content. These can be things like blog posts, podcast episodes, YouTube videos, and absolutely email newsletters, and nurture emails, and things like that. So, these are the places where you can dive deeper into topics, you can share more detailed insights, stories, and really demonstrate your expertise. And you can think of it as the difference between, having a really quick chat with somebody at a networking event versus sitting down for coffee and having a real conversation with someone. Now, you'll notice when it comes to podcasts, YouTube videos, blogs, these can also function like awareness content in some places. So if you have a blog and it's heavily search engine optimized, your SEO is really, really strong, and people are coming across your blog in search engines because they're searching for the things that you're talking about, that's awareness, right? That they may have never heard of you before and they're reading your blog and now they're aware of you. Same thing happens with YouTube. People are searching for things on YouTube. YouTube acts very much like a search engine. Your videos pop up, they become aware of you, they start to like you, they subscribe, right? So there's overlap here between awareness content and relationship building content. Now, something that is absolutely relationship building content are your email newsletters. And in order to get people from being a YouTube subscriber or a podcast listener or a social media connection to being an email subscriber is a lead magnet. So this is what I call your bridge piece. A lead magnet is what connects your awareness content to that deeper relationship building content in the email inbox. And a lead magnet might be something like a guide. It might be something like a worksheet, a checklist, a mini course, anything that is free that gives your audience valuable content in exchange for their email address. So a lot of times we'll hear this referred to as gated content. Once somebody has opted into your lead magnet, they've said, yes, I want this free thing. You can have my email address. Please send me emails. Then finally, you have your nurture emails. And these emails are the content that keeps that relationship going. Once someone joins your email list, usually I like to see nurture emails that are very story based. They can be highly educational. They're continuing to provide value while helping your audience get to know, like, and trust you. Now, I know what you might be thinking, Hillary, that sounds like so much, and you promised me that I wasn't going to get overwhelmed, and you are absolutely right. It is a lot if you try to do it all at once, but you've got to remember what we talked about earlier. The key is starting with one piece and building from there, one piece at a time. So let's talk about how to actually build a marketing ecosystem in a way that is sustainable for you. I'm going to share some specific steps that you can follow, and then we'll talk about how to maintain your marketing ecosystem without burning out. So, step one is choosing your starting point. And contrary to what you might think, I usually recommend starting with LinkedIn rather than jumping straight into long form content. So here's why. First of all, LinkedIn posts or Instagram or Twitter, I'm just using LinkedIn because it's the most common place that my audience goes to. These posts are shorter and easier to create consistently. You can often write a post in 15 to 20, maybe 30 minutes compared to spending hours on a single blog post or a podcast episode or a YouTube video. Now, second, LinkedIn is where your potential clients are probably already hanging out and looking for insights. Again, sub in Instagram, sub in Twitter if you need to, if LinkedIn is not your platform. Now, third, it's a great way to start testing what topics resonate with your audience and what topics don't resonate with your audience before you invest time into creating that longer content around topics that at this point you're kind of just guessing that your audience wants to hear about. And fourth, when you do start creating that longer content, for the most part, you're going to want to have another way to get that content out there and to start promoting that content. And social media is a really easy place to do that. So when you start publishing a podcast or you start a blog, you're not going to get a lot of traction. You're not going to get a lot of listeners or readers or things like that just because you've started posting. You want to have connections on social already that you can push that podcast out to, and that you can, post that blog so that you are essentially marketing your marketing materials. So that's why I like for people who haven't started marketing at all to start with social. The key here is consistency over quantity. It's better to post twice a week every week than to post 5 times in one week, get overwhelmed, and then disappear for a month. Something that I always like to say, especially when it comes to social media content, is to aim for B plus work. Your posts don't need to be perfect, especially on social media. They just need to be published. And if you publish a post and you realize later that it's not perfect, the next day you can publish another post and no one is ever going to remember that imperfect post, I promise you. So you just have to start posting imperfectly to get into the habit and to start building that reliability for your connections and your audience, and you can improve from there. So once you've started posting consistently, people start recognizing you and they start engaging with you and things like that. So B plus work all the way. Now, once you're consistently showing up, and I mean really consistent, like you've been doing it for at least 2 to 3 months, and it's starting to feel like just a normal part of your day or your week and a little bit effortless even, then you can think about adding your next piece. And again, if it takes you 6 months, that's great. If it takes you a year, it takes you a year. You want to get the habit of one thing in first. So, when you're thinking about adding in your next piece, you really have two choices here. Your next piece could be email marketing, or it could be that long form content marketing. That's typically either a blog or a podcast or a YouTube channel. Now, there are two schools of thought here, and I think that there's really no wrong answer. What I will say is that choosing to do the long form content next can often be a little bit of a time saver for you down the road. This is because creating one piece of long form content often begets more content really easily on those other platforms. So if you add in a podcast, you've already been posting on LinkedIn, you're comfortable posting on LinkedIn, and then you add in a podcast. Well, now with one podcast episode, you can get 3, 4, 5 clips or post ideas from that one episode that you can now start coming up with ideas for LinkedIn really super quickly. Same thing goes for email. Once you have a podcast episode or a YouTube episode, you have something really obvious to write about and share with your email list. So that is my mini argument in favor of adding in long form content next. But again, to each their own. A lot of people like to start with social media and then create a lead magnet and get straight into an email newsletter. And I am all for that as well. The key is to choose a format that feels most natural to you. So, for example, if you love talking but you hate writing, podcasting or YouTubing is probably going to be more comfortable for you. If you're more comfortable writing than talking or showing your face on video, start a blog and see how that goes. Now, if you're great on camera, of course, then video is the way. There's really no right answer here at this point. The best answer is the one that works for you and that you can commit to creating consistently. The most successful advisors and coaches that I work with are also really thoughtful about what they can create themselves and what they outsource to others. So, whether they're outsourcing to members of their team, whether they're admin team, maybe junior advisors or coaches on their team, or if they're outsourcing to marketing experts, they are also still contributing to their content and their content creation process. And the key is being really strategic about where you personally need to show up and where you can get support. Now, once again, you don't have to create everything from scratch. This is kind of another argument for starting with long form content first before you go the email route, because your lead magnet can maybe build on something that you've already created with your long form content. It can be a guide that builds on topics that you've already covered in your podcast. Maybe it's a blog post that you turn into a really comprehensive workbook style lead magnet for your audience. And then your emails can start to build on stories that you're sharing. Social media can start to build on topics that you're covering in your podcast, your YouTube channel, whatever it might be. So the goal here is always to work smarter with the more pieces you add in, not harder. As you get further into this journey, every piece of content you create should be able to feed into the multiple parts of your ecosystem. Okay, so that was a lot. Let's recap. Number one, I want you to realize that your marketing efforts don't have to be perfect. They just need to be consistent. That B+ mindset is really going to be your best friend as you build your marketing ecosystem. Number two, start with one piece of your marketing ecosystem. Maybe you have the vision for the whole ecosystem right now, but you're just starting with one piece. You're just executing on one platform and getting really good at it before you begin adding anything else. Now, like I said, most advisors and coaches that I work with start on social media. Most typically that's LinkedIn, but it could be Twitter, Instagram, what have you. But whatever you choose to commit to first, just commit to that one thing. And finally, remember that marketing is a long game endeavor. Small actions done consistently over time get much better results than big and frequent leaps. So it's all about developing a marketing system that you can really commit to without burning out on it. Now, final reminder, if you are ready to start building your own marketing ecosystem without the overwhelm, download my free guide in the show notes called Marketing Minus the Overwhelm, and it will walk you through this process step by step. It is workbook style, so there is plenty of space for you to take notes and answer questions and do brainstorming and design your own marketing ecosystem in a way that's going to work really well for your business. Now, as always, if you found this episode helpful, please be sure to subscribe to the Finance Marketing Podcast on your favorite listening app and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts if you're so inclined. Your support helps more financial professionals find the show, and I am so grateful to you, my listeners. I will catch you next time on the next episode of the Finance Marketing Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Finance Marketing Podcast. If you're eager to market your business in a way that feels good and actually gets results, sign up for the Finance Marketing Podcast newsletter in the show notes so you never miss another episode. If you liked what you heard today, please be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite listening app and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll see you back here next Friday.